This presentation is not only about tensiomyography and its added value, but it also demonstrates the most important thing of any diagnostic tool, which is relevance. We are introducing tensiomyography around the world and meeting professionals with different backgrounds. We meet sports medicine experts, researchers from different fields such as sports science, biomechanics, and sports physiology. We meet physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and also head coaches. All these people work in different fields, but all have one thing in common. They all need to make important decisions. Decisions are not the same. For example, sports medicine doctors need to make return-to-play decisions. Is the athlete ready to compete today? Physiotherapists also need to make decisions on a daily basis. They need to decide if the treatment is leading to the desired outcome, or some adaptations are needed. Strength and conditioning coaches also need to make important decisions. They often work with top-level athletes. As they cannot rapidly change their training protocols, they have to focus on small specifics to make progress. Furthermore, head coaches need to make important decisions. Which players should be selected? What kind of tactics used? If the team is physically exhausted 10 minutes before the end of the game, there is a higher risk of losing the game. So I believe all the experts we meet need to make important decisions, and in many cases their careers depend on the ratio of right and wrong decisions. But on which facts do you base decisions? The people we meet always have a lot of knowledge. They have a lot of experience. They rely on golden standard approaches. They know their athletes, and they're using different diagnostic and measuring tools. Let us focus now on diagnostic and measuring tools. The widespread segment of tools is based on imaging diagnostics. Among such tools we can find the MRI, ultrasound, and similar. These are very useful and valuable devices, and they are considered to be a medical standard, but they cannot provide information about muscle function. The next segment of tools is based on functional diagnostics that require voluntary movement, such as Isokinetic. These devices provide very detailed information about the human ability to perform movement. However, they cannot selectively assess a particular muscle and strongly depend on the motivation of an athlete. The next segment is what we call a movement analysis group. Here you can find products that vary from simple accelerometers to sophisticated movement analysis labs. These devices are very useful for monitoring the whole body movement and force production, but they cannot localize a specific muscle. Electromyography is one of the oldest methodologies, with the first actual recording made in 1890. Electromyography is very useful when you want to measure the electrical activity of a muscle, but it cannot measure a muscle's mechanical response. At one point, we need to evaluate how successful we are. Sometimes it's very difficult to be objective, so I've decided to rely on the UEFA injury study, in which 23 teams were participating from 2001 to 2008. I want to point out some simple facts. The most interesting fact of the study is that there was a 23% re-injury rate after a hamstring injury in the first 2 months. But what does this really mean? What is the difference between injury and re-injury? In football, you usually have around 28 players. They have 2 to 3 games per week, and also trainings in between. Among such a large number of players and so much activity, it is normal that injuries occur. But when a player suffers a hamstring injury, the player is taken out from the competition. He or she is being treated by a separate team of experts. Experts that have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and access to diagnostic tools they consider useful. The only thing they usually do not have is time, and in 23% the return-to-play decisions were wrong and re-injury followed. For sure, there is room for improvement. The question, what went wrong, remains. There is no doubt that you have a lot of knowledge and experience. You certainly have a lot of information to support these decisions. But the question to be asked is the information based on which the decision is to be made relevant enough? Or what kind of information do I need to make good return-to-play decisions? What makes athletes move? Would you consider this information relevant? To observe muscles while contracting. A group of experts from the University of Ljubljana considered this information relevant for many applications, and they have developed tensiomyography. In the last couple of years, the number of people who shared their opinions is increasing. Here you can see the existing muscle injury classifications. One of the latest is the Munich consensus, in which they have determined 2 groups of indirect muscle injuries. The structural muscle injury group, for which you can find image diagnostics very useful, and also functional muscle disorders, where you do not have many options. So the challenge remains, how will you objectively evaluate functional muscle disorders? There's a well-known muscle injury clinical guide written by FC Barcelona and the Aspetar Clinic, which will become the official FIFA clinical guide in 2018. The authors propose tensiomyography for the assessment of a muscle's functional recovery and assistance with the return-to-play decisions. Our proposal is simple. Do not change everything. The well-established diagnostic tools that you use are very useful in many applications. However, you should support your decisions also with functional muscle diagnostics. It should be selective, non-invasive. It should provide detailed numerical data, while it should be easy to use with a simple interpretation at the same time. If you agree with the previous conclusion, please consider tensiomyography, the first muscle contraction diagnostic method, as the tool you were searching for.